Alright, time for some more reviews from Cannes 2023. If you've been watching up to this point, you know the drill by now, and if you haven't, you should really catch up. Here are my brief thoughts on the 5 films I saw in the Un Certain Regard section, and my full thoughts, as usual, are linked in the description on Letterboxd. Up first is The Breaking Ice. This is Anthony Chen's latest film, which is a quiet and contemplative look at wandering souls in the perpetual winters of modern China. Now, those of you who've seen by far my most popular video know that this milieu is right up my alley, and The Breaking Ice is another melancholic but hopeful examination of wandering youth that really gripped me in its restraint. There's something very frigid and free-flowing, as the title suggests, in how Chen lets his film unfold, and the naturalism of these character moments and discoveries never feel tacked on from an underdeveloped production or anything like that. Chen stated before the premiere that this film began with a script that was finished just 10 days before shooting, and you can really tell how there's a strong, unifying theme holding together this journey that almost feels improvised, thanks in large part to the subdued commitment of its trio of lead performances. This isn't one of the best ever films about spiritual awakening in the throes of youth, but The Breaking Ice is certainly one of the more sincere and effective efforts you'll find out there today, and it gets a strong 7.5 out of 10. Up next is The Buriti Flower by Joao, Salaviza, and Renée Nader Messora. This is an indigenous Brazilian film, which already puts it at a disadvantage for me personally because those are just 2 forms of filmmaking that I tend to struggle with for some reason. Something about the hyper-specificity of these stories just makes it difficult for me to connect with them at times, but I'm always open to giving another one a fair shot. The Buriti Flower is an absolutely gorgeous film, with the way the film stock celluloid captures the Amazon skyline and riverbeds. It's really a treat for the eyes in a way that I can't say I've quite seen before. Sadly, in every other respect, I found the film just had an extremely difficult time actually connecting with me on a narrative level. There's a lot of bland exposition trying to fill you in on all the necessary cultural context to make this film work, but The Buriti Flower, clearly a film that holds the art of storytelling in high regard, just does little to actually make the telling of those stories all that compelling. This felt like a film that could have so much to say about modern Brazil and its relationship with the indigenous populations, but most of the value you'd get from that relationship seems to come from already having the context before you go into the film. Can't give The Buriti Flower much more than a 6 out of 10, but maybe I'm just missing something crucial here. Up next is Goodbye Julia, the first Sudanese film to play in Cannes. Directed by Mohamed Kordofani, this is a film that does a good job of setting up its local political history in obvious but compelling fashion. The political division of Sudan into the creation of South Sudan was something I was completely unaware of, and the way Kordofani expresses a history through this classist story of these characters and their interweaving lives is an extremely effective way to go about the story. The politics themselves are peripheral, maybe too peripheral to the main narrative, which may feel like a lost opportunity given how little light has been shed on this particular situation. But still, Goodbye Julia makes for a powerful examination of the real and misplaced value of lying in a greater social context. The film is well cast, with the protagonist being such a quick-witted person out of necessity that following her journey just becomes a really worthwhile endeavor. I may be selling this film as a bit more mysterious than it actually is because it's mostly just a straightforward drama. But it's a straightforward drama told with great verve, and I'm really excited to see what the director comes out with next. 7.5 out of 10 for Goodbye Julia. Up next, we have the only Canadian film to play in the official selection this year, Monia Chokri's The Nature of Love. Now, the film's original French title, Simple comme Sylvain, does a much better job of relaying the film's theme of misplaced longing far better than its generic English title, because the film as a whole is just an extremely entertaining view of how confused relationships can be when we don't know what we're looking for, which happens to be the case for most of us. Chokri is very energetic and dynamic in her framing of the story. It almost feels like Denis Arcand channeling Robert Altman while trying his hand at the worst person in the world. That's probably the most accurate way I can describe the film. It's very zany, it's very natural, and it's very, very Quebec. Now that may be a turnoff for some of you, but that made for a very surprising experience for me, and I got to exert a very rare bit of patriotism along the way. So I see that as an absolute win. I have about as much to say about The Nature of Love as the film itself has to say about that very topic. It's just better to go in yourself and have a good time. This one scores a 7. And finally, I saw How to Have Sex, which both won the top prize in the Un Certain Regard section and disappointed me with how few pointers I actually got on the subject. False advertising. In all seriousness, Molly Manning Walker's debut is an extremely confident and uncomfortable experience in just how relentless it is in its depiction of partying until the point where you just can't think straight anymore. There's a real value to depicting the dangers of this mentality and pressuring yourself and others to take these extra steps before you're ready, but Walker never feels preachy about it. How to Have Sex feels, raw in its approach to the narrative. So much so that I already regret that incredibly stupid joke. I'm sorry, I just couldn't resist it, and now I'm already ashamed. Anyway, there's a real intensity and urgency to Walker's vision that makes her winning this section not too surprising, even if the film as a whole can somewhat appear a bit been there, done that in its grand message. But as with most filmmakers in this section this year, How to Have Sex made me really excited to see whatever Walker has cooking up next. For now, her debut gets a solid 7. That'll do it for this video. Up last will be the full competition lineup where I give a very, very brief thoughts on all 21 competing titles. Until then, be sure to catch up on all the other videos in this year's Cannes Quest and subscribe to the channel for more. Have a great day, stay safe, and as always, I'll see you when I see you.